I would say in terms of prophets are people that God has set apart to kind of deliver a message. Now we see that God has taken ordinary people. They were righteous people. They were prone to
righteous people.
They were prone
that.
They were prone to sin though, because what the Bible.
The children of Israel, right?
Yeah.
All the children of Israel, right?
But I want to understand this thing that he said.
Ordinary people were the
What the
children of
Bible is trying to teach
Israel.
is that there's nothing greater than God. So God has used prophets, ordinary people, to do extraordinary things, but the prophets themselves were not necessarily infallible people, but it was the people that God had raised for His own. Yeah, so that's why, like, prophets could do sin because they were ordinary humans.
Yeah, we don't say prophets can't do sin. What we say is they're protected from major sins.
Okay, but then, like, the Shias take it to the extreme and they're all infallible, right?
Oh, well, okay, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we just say that prophets, like Moses and David, did sins and God punished them because they're just human. Do you know what I mean? But they were still righteous people. You know, God loved David because the Bible says God had a heart after God's own. So even when he did wrong, he was very repentant of it. You understand? But they were just like, they weren't normal people, but they were normal people. Like,
but
people
they were humans, they live and
relate,
die.
yeah,
but obviously,
people that we can relate to.
They have a,
yeah.
For me, they have a standard of character, which made God look at these people and set them apart.
Because if we look at, for example, David was the youngest of all his siblings in the Bible. Like when I think it was Samuel went to pick him to be king, it was like they thought he would take one of the older brothers, but God took this young one and then he fought Goliath. They were all laughing at him. Look at this little boy. You understand? So God's taken these people. Abraham, when he had his son, he was really old. So God is using these people as example. Moses, he wasn't great in speech. Like, he wasn't a great speaker. But God took him and used him. He was like a lowly Hebrew person. So that's like that's what the Bible is trying to show you, that these people, they weren't like, these are, you know, the best of the best. Like Moses wasn't the best, you know, speaker or whatever, but God took him and raised his level.
Because the best is if it's about righteousness and being God fearing.
Yeah.
But that's where.
Because even, let me just last point on that. Because even with Jesus, because the prophecies about the Messiah was he would be a king. But when Jesus was born in a manger with animals, the place probably stunk. But it was a lowly level, but this is a person of royal blood. He's going to be a king, a ruler. And that's what obviously we see Jesus living, but the Bible was always teaching like this humility in people, and God's elevating his people. And Jews were like, well, how can this guy be like the King of Kings? They mocked him and whatnot. He was just born in this manger and stuff like that. So when we see the prophets, that's how we see them. Like, they're all humans and we can relate to them. So when we're struggling, it's like, you know, even the prophets of God had tough times as well, and that's what to enhance our faith. You know what I mean? It's not like these people are unrelatable. So if I'm going through something, it's like, well, I can't relate to the prophet because he was perfect. It's like there's the story of Job, and he lost all his children, but he never cursed God. He was still like praising God and whatnot. So it's like people who have like a death in their family or something, sometimes some families are wiped out, and it's like, wow, how can you deal with that? But some people might open up the book of Job and look at him and be like, let me use him as my guidance. Do you know what I mean? So that's how it's the prophets are trying to be like relatable and stuff like that.
Of course, the stories are that. I mean, that's the meaning of it.
No, I resonate with that. There's just other, what I would say, more wild stories. I don't even want to go into the details.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll go to like
more wild stories that I don't see there being some sort of a message I'm supposed to get.
Like for people use Lot, but Lot in the Bible wasn't a prophet. In Islam, he's a prophet, and he slept with his daughter. His daughter slept with him.
He got drunk, yeah. He didn't know what was happening.
Lot, but he's not a prophet in Islam. But again, we have to say at that time.
Is he not a prophet? Is not a prophet someone who's prophesied to?
What?
Is not a prophet someone who receives prophecy that's prophesied to?
Yeah, who gives a prophecy.
Right.
Yeah. So in the Bible, like Lot doesn't give any.
So I'm saying, when he's told and informed by the angels about the destination of that, what's going to happen to Sodom, and he tells his family to leave.
I think that's the Bible.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I mean, so the Quran.
What? So the angels don't come and tell him?
No,
anything?
they come. What did they say to him?
They tried to.
Abraham. I think Abraham takes him out. I don't think that because the angels
Abraham
go
goes
to
into
him.
Sodom Wasn't it his wife? And his wife turns into salt or something. She looks behind her back. They're told to go to a certain place.
Was it the angels that told him? I can't. Maybe it might be
because they tried to approach the angels and say.
It might be. But prophecy is more like a prophecy, not like. Oh, okay, the angel are telling him something. And
so receiving information about that events in the future, that's not prophecy.
No.
According to Christianity,
it's more like prophesying something. Like
would you see him to be a prophet?
No, because he's more. The angels are telling him we're going to destroy the city, get out, rather than him getting a revelation and giving it to the people.
Oh, okay, so that's your standard for a prophet,
Sort of,
yeah?
No, I mean, he gave it to his family, innit? Because they were the only people that were going to be saved.
Yeah,
but the people who were supposed to
see what's
his understanding, but more direct revelation from God.
His standards for a prophet. What his
telling him
standard for a prophet.
So what's the standard of prophecy for your religion?
For a prophet.
I want to debate
because I missed this
I know I had a debate with him before, but I've got more stuff.
Sorry, I missed the debate. That's why I just joined.
The standard for a prophet.
But you said at least 30 people. So after Jesus died,
what's your religion?
Because you said 66
no,
the Bible,
including the Old Testament, though.
Including the Old Testament.
Yeah.
But at least
66 authors.
10 came after, at least.
So there's how many's in the New Testament? I think
so
Old
including
like
all the authors that we know, like Paul. So you include as prophets?
No. They're just writers of the scripture. Like Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and John were disciples. They weren't prophets.
Okay, but when I asked you before who wrote the Bible, you said me are prophets, 66 authors, and all of them are prophets.
Oh no, not all of them. Not all of them.
Okay.
And there's one. To be honest, there's one book no one knows who wrote it. Well, there's a few. The book of Esther. That's in the Old Testament.
Why does no one know who wrote the one?
No one knows who wrote the others too.
No, that one I'm not sure. I mean, there's not enough.
I mean, come on.
No.
We're not sure who wrote the others.
Or is it the book of Esther? I think it's the book of Esther. It might be.
Not just
but I can't remember. And the book of Hebrews, like we believe Paul wrote it, but under scholarship, some people say it might not be Paul. But so there are one or two books under contention, but generally it wasn't all prophets that wrote it, because some of it, as we say, the Gospels were written by eyewitnesses. That's who we say. They weren't necessarily prophets.
But that's the thing that amazes me about Christians. I mean, so the Bible is a revelation for you, yeah? But you guys you're not looking who wrote it, from where it comes, when.
But also, that also made it dwell on Old Testament. The nature of the Old Testament and the New Testament are quite different, because from what we know, primarily the New Testament was revelation sent down to prophets, and here we have New Testament literature about eyewitness accounts of Christ. So
but then if you're taking the Quranic understanding, then that's why.
No, but I mean, even from a biblical standpoint.
I read both of them, the Old Testament and the New Testament.
Yeah.
The Old Testament is like, the book that sent to Moses, from Moses to the Hebrews. Is that right?
From Moses,
and the New Testament was the book that was like, describe the tradition of Jesus.
9th century,
and it describes, the way he interacted with the Hebrew. Basically, because Jesus was sent to the Hebrew to change things that went wrong with the Hebrews.
To bring them back to the original.
Would be something from Christ himself. That would follow. What I'm saying is the Old Testament pattern, as in Moses.
Yeah, because that's why he was sent down.
Daniel, Isaiah received revelation, and then the New Testament would be everything that Christ received and taught his people, rather than eyewitness.
Historically, that's what it is.
Moses got, you believe Muhammad got the revelation, but he didn't write it down.
No.
So therefore, that's what I'm saying. Like the eyewitness.
I'm not even talking about writing it down. I'm saying even if you dispute,
we talk about
the claim of whether it came from
Bible and the New Testament.
The Quran and Muslims are claiming is from Muhammad. I'm saying, but you're not even claiming that it's Jesus. You're openly saying these people wrote about Jesus. Now I'm saying, it would follow the biblical pattern if it was the gospel of Christ, and Christ was saying, you know, Christ went into
get
Jerusalem and told the people do this.
Yeah.
Christ went into Jerusalem and told the people do that.
Yeah.
I'm saying that would follow. I'm not even questioning here.
But then the gospel.
what's-
But then that's the thing. The gospel is the gospel of Christ, because that's why it's called the gospel.
But it's
but
not. It's a
been done
mixture of
after.
things.
No,
though.
it's tradition.
It's a mixture of eyewitness testimony plus what Jesus Christ said.
It's like
Yeah.
a biography.
So,
It's
you know what I'm
biography
saying? Whereas the
written,
Quran
you
wouldn't be
know,
what
yeah.
eyewitness testimony. The Quran would just be straight what people writ.
But
coming
then
from the
wouldn't
Prophet
you
Muhammad's
see
mouth.
the Bible as like the hadith, where the hadith?
Yeah.
So
No.
that-
It would be like hadith.
Yeah.
But also, okay.
We
so
can
it would
do
be
this
it would be
comparison with hadith,
Right.
but not Quran.
So it would be
Yeah, but
so it
then-
would be a combination
I
of
mean,
hadith
ideally,
and athar.
ideally.
Okay.
Yeah. So athar are.
But then,
Yeah.
what would be if the Bible is comparable to hadith?
So
and
even that is-
athar or
Yeah,
athar,
athar, yeah.
what would be wrong with that in itself? Like, why? I'm just trying to get your point of like
Okay, cool.
how it should
it's-
be different.
Okay, so in Islam, obviously, okay, so the Quran itself is a one big hadith. Yeah. So
Yeah.
but it's the reason why it's not disputed is because the chains are mutawatir. They are
Okay.
mass narrated.
Okay.
Yeah. So from Hafs,
And there is a
Qalun,
science of
Khalid,
hadith
Warsh,
also.
all of these narrators, there's a mass chain of them coming off Quran. Now athar, even though they have got a lot of athar, are what go back to companions, right? They don't go back to the Prophet Muhammad himself. So I would say to you, for example, an athar, something that goes back to Abu Bakr, might be correct, might not be correct, but there's not a hujjah for me. I don't have to accept the statement of Abu Bakr in anything.
Give me an example. Like what kind of?
Okay, so
There are
let
a
me
lot
think
things
of.
Like in a
too,
hadith,
I
you
don't
mean?
know them.
Okay, so for example, yeah, in the time of Umar, radiallahu anhu, the second Khalifa, yeah, he made the talaq, yeah, the pronouncement of divorce,
Okay.
yeah, free pronounce.
talaq.
So basically, in one sitting, if you said
Yeah,
3 times
triple
talaq,
talaq.
talaq,
Yeah,
talaq,
yeah, yeah. You
right,
get
it
it.
ran,
Yeah, yeah.
right. But the orthodox position is that there's one talaq for one sitting. So even if you pronounce 1,000
Okay.
times talaq in one sitting, it's
yeah.
one talaq.
Okay.
Right. So someone would say, but he's your Khalif and he's a companion of the Prophet Muhammad, so you have to accept that. And I say to you, the speech of Omar is not hujjah unless he has an authority going back to the Messenger, Muhammad, peace be upon him.
Okay.
Then I don't have to accept that.
Okay.
Right. So the equivalent would be to say if Paul
Yeah.
comes along and makes another statue after, I would say to you, is his authority
Yeah.
from Jesus,
Yeah.
or is it from any other prophet or someone authorized?
Yeah.
Right, and then it would be up to you to then convince me
Yeah.
to say, yeah, it's endorsed by God or it's endorsed by
Is that your-
Jesus behind him.
Yours.
Oh yeah. That's what I'm saying.
So now are you talking about Paul or?
No, I was just
trying
talking
to
about in
do a
general. I was talking about the
comparison
New
here,
Testament in
so-
general, as in the fact that there are statements in there that are not directly going back to Christ. They're of people.
Like biography
observation.
or yeah.
But the thing is, what I'm trying to answer, but the
I'm not even, it's not even a criticism. It's just
no,
an
no,
observation.
I know. But the thing is, because they're writing Christ's words, but then if Christ walks there, they're saying, well, Christ walks.
Yeah, they describe
So
description.
that's what I'm saying. Like,
Okay,
I'm
so-
trying
alright.
to
Description.
understand what is necessarily.
Okay, so my point would be to say, yeah, did all of these authors capture everything in the life of Christ that he disseminated to his disciples? Or he
No.
disseminated to people?
No.
Right, so then there may be commands and statutes that haven't reached us. Now I'm saying if it was from Christ,
Yeah.
I believe, it might be wrong, but he would just disseminated everything that he. Do you know what I'm saying? If
Well,
Christ is speaking and someone's writing it down,
Yeah.
even if one disciple don't get it, the next disciple will get it, or someone would get it. Do you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
but I think on 2 points. One, I think the key point is Christ iterated, because the Bible does say, I think it's towards the end of John, where it says Christ did many more things, and if we had recorded everything, like the Bible,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? So I think they captured the core essence of what Jesus was doing, because he would have repeated himself many times, the message many times to different people.
So you don't believe there's anything that they would have left out that might be that might contradict the overall
I think,
message?
I think like there's certain things where not necessarily. So I think obviously Christianity has evolved in terms of its theology.
That's the
in the
thing.
same, but in the
But
same
it's
way,
an important
but in the
thing,
same way,
yeah.
Islam has as well, because there's certain things where your scholars have to then create consensus. So someone could say, well, God should have said every single little line or whatever,
Yeah.
but he hasn't. But so that's why
I
then
don't
you
believe
have.
in consensus, so that doesn't work.
Well, but
so,
there's certain things where, if we under Sharia, if you wanna,
yeah.
like even, I think you have 4 different madhabs or whatever. So
Well,
people
there's more, but the famous ones,
Yeah.
yeah.
So even how people interpret things.
Yeah.
But someone could say, let's say I'm an atheist, I can say, well, Allah should have told them specifically how to follow Sharia. But there's things that people have interpreted different
Yeah,
ways
yeah.
because. So
Okay.
Christianity is in the
Yeah.
same in sense that.
But then I could argue,
majority of
and say
things-
Allah has taught us how to implement Sharia. It's just how people's
Well,
minds interpret.
Well, exactly. Well, that's
Right.
the thing. Whose one's right? Because
That's that will
But those are
that's
deep-
for the
those are
day of
deep
judgment.
dives.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not even arguing. I'm not even arguing who's right or wrong.
Yeah,
I'm saying
yeah.
I'm just asking, are the statutes present for them to even be disputed? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
So,
yeah.
well, all I say with Christ, so I would say that has been established. Obviously, if we want to go to Paul, because people might say, well, how come Paul is saying something and Christ is saying something else?
Well, doesn't Paul forget Christ? Doesn't Paul say stuff and then Peter says stuff that goes against it, and then James, they kind of have a little bit of a debacle going on.
Well,
as
at first, I think you had the issue with them was about with Gentiles,
Yeah.
whether they had to eat clean and unclean food. And Peter had a dream from God that he basically had a dream of a ladder, and I think like something was going up and down, angels or something or the other. So then he sort of
interpret that.
agreed. So we see there were discussions and stuff, but that's why we will legitimize Paul, because Paul actually interacted with the apostles as well, and then they vouched for him as well.
Directly.
Huh?
Directly, not through a vision or something?
No, he saw Christ.
Through a vision, yeah?
Yeah. Like Christ appeared to him after he had died.
A vision.
But then Paul also engaged with the apostles as well, and they co-signed him. So therefore, you know, people say, well, Paul invented Christianity, blah, 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 blah. But he, obviously, we go by the Bible, and he was co-signed by the apostles as well.
That's something I got to look
Because
into,
you can't get co-signed by the apostles.
For what I understand, he didn't get co-signed.
No, he did. The only thing people might bring up is between James and, well, people try and say James and Paul may have it, the interpretation of following the law, whether the law had been abolished, and that's probably the only key thing. But you know, Paul received revelation and then was obviously spreading this thing. People say, well, why didn't Christ say these things? My personal thing would be just that I think Jesus came directly for the Israelites.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
And Paul's mission,
Hebrews.
Paul was a
I would say
Roman.
Paul was an Israelite then.
Yeah,
Of
he was an
course, yeah.
Israelite,
Paul was,
but he was a
Jewish. Paul.
Yeah, but Jewish and Israelite is not the same thing. Being an
yeah.
Israelite is a lineage, and being Jewish is a religion. So to mix the two up, I don't think you can do that.
You can say that.
He may be both.
The line's a little bit blurred.
No, he was
because
believer.
if you look at the Old
Paul,
Testament,
one
it is-
God.
Well, he was
Initially,
from Tarsus. He was
Initially,
Turk.
yeah, because if you
initially.
look at the Old
So
Testament,
he was Turk in nature, wasn't he? He was Turk in essence.
Turk,
Was he not a Turk?
Roman.
Wait, yeah, but no, what was he a Roman as in a Byzantine?
He's Israelite. He's
Right,
Jew.
so when we say Roman, yeah, because the Romans had the control of that region.
Yeah,
From what I
yeah.
understand, it's a place. Tarsus is a place in
Byzantine, yeah.
Yeah?
The Eastern Empire, Roman Empire.
But my thing was, the reason why I say that is because, okay, we might not agree with prophets, because I know the term for you guys is quite specific. But what I find interesting is that you have a concept of revelation being revealed to people who are not prophets.
Yeah.
So then, so then I would say, then what's your issue with the Prophet Muhammad receiving revelation?
What's the definition of prophecy?
Is it in and of itself the fact that he's not an Israelite, or is it just the message itself?
I think a bit of both, because we will say prophets had to come from the line of Israel.
So let's forget prophet. Let's forget that word prophet.
Yeah. So then
People who receive revelation.
So then you had like the pouring out of the Holy Spirit. So which was then people weren't necessarily having revelation in terms of scripture or following the faith,
Right.
but more they would receive revelation as they'd be able to do things like prophecy or heal people,
Right.
like some miracles, but not necessarily revelation in terms of like God is saying like
Yeah.
do
But I
this
mean,
or,
Paul got
or
it.
scripture.
So, and we're talking about the Holy Spirit,
yeah.
right? So why not the Prophet Muhammad? Why could he not receive the Holy Spirit?
Well, there's two reasons. One,
Israelite. He's not Israelite. He's
yeah,
Sabiite.
yeah. So the proper prophets, like,
No, but forget
Yeah,
the prophethood.
so that-
I'm talking about prophet.
well, that's
No,
what
it
I'm
has
saying.
to
I'm talking
be.
about
It has to be from-
I'm talking about
and-
revelation.
Yeah, and two, the
has
message
to be in-
contradicts the old, like the Bible.
Right, so, okay.
So two.
We can't have two though. We have to kick one out because if we're saying that revelation
Yeah.
can come to someone other than an Israelite,
It depends on, like, in terms of, because his revelation was more scripture based.
who Paul's
No,
Muhammad.
yeah.
But so was Paul's
like the
as well.
Quran.
So Paul's revelations could be seen as some of them were abrogations of the law, which is why he was beefing James. So we could say that a lot of his instructions to people when he writing letters is in terms of how to live their lives as Christians.
Yeah.
Right?
Like Moses, you know.
So
he
I'm
received,
saying,
yeah.
similarly, the Prophet Muhammad's revelation, quote unquote, was also doing the same thing, telling people how to live their lives.
But then the main primarily thing.
The primary.
Primary,
Would
that's
you-
it, yeah.
would you-
The primary
God,
thing
God.
would be the Quran
Israelite.
goes against what the Bible teaches.
Right. Okay. Cool.
So that's the main issue.
Fine. That's it. Okay. Because I just want to know. Because because I speak to people all the time,
Yeah.
and it bothers me that we haven't overcome the hurdle. The issue, as far as I see, reading the Bible has got nothing to do with being an Israelite. Right? It's actually got to do with the actual message. So I feel like when we have that conversation, let's skip
down to the
that
message.
stuff,
Because
and then let's talk about the
because
message.
this is the thing, like Muslims will say the Bible's corrupted, right? But then when Jesus came, he would have had the Torah, even if you believe it's the original Torah. Let's say you believe what we have now is
He would have had.
corrupted.
I would say he would have had the right interpretation of the Torah, but yeah, but
But at his
either
time,
way,
at his time, we don't know. It might be the original.
But
one,
if it
yeah.
gets corrupted at some point,
Right.
that means God hasn't left anything for people to, like, a truth for people to stand on. Because let's say if it was corrupted from the time of Jesus for 600 years, then what truth can the Israelites stand on? Because it's corrupted. So how can you live as a righteous Jew for 600 years until the Quran comes? Because God has to protect his word. Otherwise, what can people follow? And that's why for us, we say, like, it's impossible to corrupt the words of God. Otherwise, if God is choosing a righteous nation, how can they be righteous if they've not got a righteous book to follow?
Right.
Because they're all being misguidance then.
yeah.
Correct.
No, you're
yeah.
right. But we're not saying it was an overnight thing. That's number one.
Yeah.
We're not saying that the Bible become corrupt overnight, right? And also, we've also looked at certain scriptures which would allude externally to those things. Like when we pick out Jeremiah 8:8, it's not because we just grab a verse. Let's look for something.
Well, that one is sort of cherry picking, and I'll show you. I'll show you why.
I'm not saying anything that we do is going to
Yeah.
be cherry picking according to Christians
Yeah.
anyway. But what I'm saying to you is, it's not like we were so desperate we went through the whole Bible and that was we've only got one. No, because when you talk to a lot of Muslims, there's a different range of concepts and stuff, biblical ones that we talk to you about, and we'll even talk to you about what seems to be contradictory within the Bible itself. Now, you saying we're not saying that there is no, well, at least I'm not saying that
Even
there
if
is
you
no
believe there's
standard of
partial
Torah.
truth, though,
Yeah.
my thing would be this: if you have a book that was written by someone, and the whole nation believes in this book, how is it possible then to change the book and get the whole nation to believe in all the lies without anyone
So that would-
disputing?
So that would be based on the assumption that everybody, first off, is literate and believes in the book.
Well, because it was for the Jews, and the Jews had the Torah as their guidance.
but you
so-
are okay. See, that's why I'm okay. So it was. This is where Jude and Israelite term kind of gets a bit blurred.
Yeah.
Because they were Israelites. They weren't necessarily Jews, as in they were not necessarily all religious and all Hasidic or went to the synagogue or kept all the statutes. And they weren't all, were they all, can we testify that they were all people
weren't all religious.
given
Like
to
they-
studying and
No, they were all
the Pharisees were seen to be the religious elite from what I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that sorry, I know.
No,
I keep
go on.
interrupting. But it's just that's how I try and look at it logically. Like it's like me, everyone's seen you, and me trying to say next week that you're a Chinese man. But Some people might believe me, but they'll be like, no, I've seen Isa. He's black. What are you talking about?
Cool.
So then how do you
Generations
convince?
generations die out, right?
And my
Yeah,
message,
Right.
But
and
then-
it's easy to, as generations die and go forward, people forget things, people not misinterpret, but they might interpret it different ways.
From legend, yeah.
New schools of thoughts come into play.
Okay.
Now, it might not even be that the actual scripture itself is distorted, but it might be that, and this is purely speculation on my
look,
part.
the answer is on the people, on the Christian people. You know why? Because you have different Christians that believe different things on Christianity.
Yeah, and that's
And if you look into the old Christians, they're so close to
but then that would go against you. And I like the reason why you brought that point, because
you said
have
logically,
factions.
yeah.
So therefore, if someone corrupts something, it's going to create a split. Like you have Shia
And there's lots of splits.
and Sunnis who don't believe in the Hadith. So if that was true, there should be like those who say, okay, do you know what? This is the true one, and someone else who's got a different one to
Are
say.
they not different strands of Jews? There are different strands of Jews.
But
You
they
can
don't
see them.
disagree on like the Torah and
We
stuff
would
like
never
that.
know that.
Yeah, we would hear about it.
No, we wouldn't, because Jews,
But the
first
difference
off,
is
they're
I
not an
was-
open community like that.
Yeah,
That's
but
number
we
one.
know they only use the same. They use the same Torah.
Yeah, okay, but then do they use the same Talmudic writings? Do they go back to the same scholarship? They don't always. Some are a lot of Jews go, they take from Maimonides, and a lot of them, and a few of them don't.
But let's just, for argument's sake, go with the Talmud. But the Torah itself, there's no dispute amongst Jews
But
about
that's
that.
right, fair enough.
So
But
that's what I'm saying.
Where is the Torah?
Yeah,
Torah's
so
gone.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, if I pull out the Bible,
There is no
it's
Torah.
either the true
There is
Torah or
Torah.
it's
There is
not.
no Torah. Where is the Torah?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So
Torah
if,
is gone.
so if it's gone, then how did it go? And the Jews, that we've not had any Jews apart from until the time
It's
of
the
Because
tradition.
remember,
Allah said, yeah.
there's one point. Until it wasn't until Ibn Hazm came in the 9th century that they made the claim that the Bible and everything.
What are you saying? Ibn Hazm al-Andalusi you're talking about?
Yes, he wrote his book. He's the one who
what's his book?
solidified that the polemic that
Which
the
was the-
Christians
what
had
was the book
corrupted the Injil. I don't know what it's
But
called, but it's
we
Ibn
knew it
Hazm.
already from the Quran.
No. The Quran doesn't affirm that. That's what you.
Yeah.
That's how you interpret it now.
Okay.
But if you go and check out Ibn Hazm, he's the first person who's attributed in the 9th century as actually writing about saying that the Christians corrupted the. Like before then, Muslims didn't have an issue with the.
No, you can't say that. The most you can say is
The reason why I say is find me an interpretation from any scholar before Ibn Hazm that confirms what you're saying.
I'm saying if you go to the Quran,
book
you
do
can
you-
quite clearly see in the verses clear passages alluding to the fact that the
sixth
Christians and Jews
because
changed their book.
Remember, the Quran also says that the Jews and the Christians had a guidance with them, and what was in between their hands.
And
right?
don't forget
so that's why early Muslims didn't believe it had been corrupted.
Do you wanna-
It's only until Ibn Hazm.
So the-
and
But we believe that probably the Torah was the same until the time of
and it's
of
conveniently
Moses.
disappeared.
Moses.
But don't forget that in the Quran it doesn't talk about the Bible.
We're not saying it's
It talks about the
completely
Injil.
Yeah.
The Torah has definitely, when you read it, you can see the divinely inspired truth and parts of it. But then in other parts of it, where you see the statutes are contradicting and things are not reconciling, that's where we see intervention of men happening. And what I wanted to go back to is Quran says يحرفون الكلمة عن مواضعه. It says that they distort their words from their places. So for example, just generally speaking, in Semitic languages, you can have a word with the same letters.
Yeah.
But then, according to the way you put the vowelage on it, you can change the meaning, right?
Yeah.
This is what Allah's talking about.
Yeah.
They have the wording, right? But they distort the harakat from where it is, so that they end up generating
Different meanings.
different meanings and different laws, and that's what they teach the people.
Yeah.
And then they say stuff that the Quran says they hide the true meanings behind closed doors amongst their circles. So
Yeah, but then
Allah says, وَأَتُحَدِّثُونَهُمْ بِمَا فَتَحَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكُمْ لِيَحَاجُوكُمْ عِنْدَ رَبِّكُمْ. Are you going to, the Jews, some of them say to another, are you going to speak to them about what Allah has revealed to you, like in truth, so that they're going to argue with you on the Day of Judgment about it? This is the Quran. It's not Ibn Hazm to come with.
Yeah,
Ibn Hazm is a prolific
remember,
scholar.
because
but there's
Yeah, but
We
what
knew
it
it
accused
before
him of is trying to distort the meaning, not the actual text, because there's the.
That's fine,
it's
but
where-
there is
yeah,
that. But I'm
that's what
saying there is also the bit where it says, "Woe to those who write the book with their hands."
Yeah, but then.
But we can still
But you
see
can
it
argue
today.
that's
from
referring to
200
Jews who
years,
write
so-
the Talmud and attribute it to, like, it's a divinely
Yeah,
inspired book.
but
That wasn't corruption of the actual text.
I'm saying, who's to say that?
Because you had the
yeah.
story, sorry, just of where, of the stoning, and it came to your prophet, and the guy tried to
cover it
hide
up.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
So they hadn't actually changed the text. They just tried to hide it, and then he saw the text. So that's why I'm saying, like, when you look at the historical thing, like the scholars, a lot of your scholars, will say that no. The early scholars will say that the text wasn't corrupted.
So what's their interpretation then?
Do you want me to? I can
Yeah,
bring
because,
some.
I mean, we have to bring a wholesome thing.
Yeah, I've got a few. Like,
And also we talk about as well riba, that and also riba which has been started by the Jewish, and that's why it said in the Torah, it's forbidden riba. It means
The fact that
usury.
there is no
Yeah,
usury
yeah.
in the actual
So that's
scripture
why he
itself
confronted
now.
them with the Torah, that it says it's forbidden usury, and then why you do this? And confronted them.
yeah, because I took these screenshots just because sometimes when I'm discussing with people. So you had Ibn Abbas.
Yeah.
So he says the word tarif,
This is the story
corruption,
about the corruption of the. Okay.
signifies to change a thing from its original nature, and there's no man who could corrupt a single word of what proceeded from God. And that's in Bukhari. Then they had Abbas. They corrupt the word means they alter or change its meaning, yet no one is able to change even a single word from any book of God. The meaning is that they interpret the word wrongly. Al-Tabari, they alter its meaning, that is, they change its direction and its meaning to another meaning.
Which is what I was saying a second ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Al-Razi, it is impossible to change the speech of God has been made manifest to a large. Yeah, it is, and this is more along my argument.
It's not
where
him,
he
he
said,
said,
it
it's
is
said in
impossible
Quran.
if the speech of God has been made manifest to a large number of people, like the manifestation of the Quran, like to corrupt it. So that's why, if like with the Torah, I'm saying, how would so many people know this was the truth, and then someone's changing it and everyone buys into it? Because you would at least have factions who are arguing to say, nah, within Judaism itself, to say they've got the corrupt one. Like, even, let's say, for example, within Christianity, we have different Bibles.
Yeah.
So at least there's a
there-
faction. And
there are disputes, right?
Yeah, but that's what logically happens. So therefore, even though we don't disagree on the Gospels or anything, but if the Torah was corrupted, we don't see any like evidence of
but-
this
but
sort of.
why
yeah, but
meant
that's
when
based on the premise that the Jewish community would be as forthcoming with their mistakes as the other communities.
Well, we can
and we
find-
don't know them that well. We don't know them well enough to assume that would be the case.
Also, there's an assumption of a continuation of Jewish community from the time of Moses up until now. When you forget like the two sackings of Jerusalem and Jews being taken out of Jerusalem into captivity and them losing their tradition and losing their text. So there's room there, from a historical point, there's room for text to be not necessarily altered, but someone to write a new text and attribute to God. And that fits in line with the verse of the verse you mentioned, where they write the text, they write it with their own hands and attribute it to God. So in that period, and I've heard a lot of atheist historians, and you can say they're biased on this, but who argue that in that point, in that juncture, the Torah is I wouldn't say fabricated, but they cite that Jewish historians, when they go back to Jerusalem, start rewriting the Torah and try to rewrite it and try and get back what they can remember from it and say this is the original story of the Jewish diaspora.
That's a possibility.
So
But
what
for
I'm
me,
saying- what I'm saying is there's a possibility for both. There's a possibility that when the Torah was the book of Allah, it couldn't be altered, and that fits in with what you're saying.
Because it was destroyed after,
well,
after the
I'll tell you
invasion
this.
of,
When Jerusalem was destroyed
after-
by the Babylonians and
yeah,
into
Babylon,
captivity,
yeah,
it's
exactly.
lost.
They
And
burned-
then it's
they burned it a
rewritten,
lot, they burned
and
it
it's
a lot.
claimed that this is the original Torah. And that fits in with the other verse, which is
been
that
burned
they write
completely,
something and claim that this is from God.
But then also the communities weren't all destroyed. So the people would, because they were only in captivity, what was it, 70 years or something like that? So you'd have still had those traditions carrying on that people would have been aware, or at least someone. And
No, they did.
and you remember, you still had prophets coming after. Even Jesus had the Torah. So what was he? Even if, for argument's sake, there was a corrupt one, he would have at least told people, "Hey, this is the corrupt one."
I mean, we
This is-
believe on the
because
Torah if it was
Jesus
original.
was a law-abiding
If
Jew,
it
so he
does
had to have Torah
exist
to
now,
abide by.
okay.
So even if there was a corrupt one, let's just say, what was he using? You understand? So at least
He would have been using the revelation that came to him from
they
God,
do.
because he was a prophet that
He's already
received
a
revelation.
prophet.
yeah. So
basic-
you telling me he would have come and not told anyone, "Hey guys, the Torah you're
No,
using."
no, no. He would have corrected their statutes. So he would have said,
Yeah.
he would have said, yeah,
So where would-
what you're on is falsehood.
Yes.
Worship Allah and follow me.
Yeah.
Right.
So wouldn't that
That's
have-
why I don't think it's
So wouldn't
So he
important
would,
to.
and it also Quranically, it also says
You have to believe
that
in scripture before.
I make halal to you. I make some things which were forbidden to you
Yeah.
before halal. As in, my sending has made certain laws and statutes easy upon you. Right.
Okay. All right.
So he would have been the lawgiver at that point.
And that is a good
And that
point.
kind of fits in with the new covenant kind of thing that you lot.
But just to add to that point,
Yeah.
now we have the Dead Sea Scrolls, right? And they date to about 300 years before Christ. And I think it's all the books apart from one.
Just like a BC, 200, 300 BC.
Yeah. So Old Testament, it's all Old Testament. I think all the books of the Old Testament apart from one book. Actually, it might even be the Book of Esther, which I mentioned before. I keep mentioning that one. Now, until 1948, I think it was. Before the Dead Sea Scrolls discovery, you had the Aleppo Codex, which was in the 11th century. That was the oldest manuscript.
AC.
Yeah, AD.
AD, sorry.
Then they found in 1948, 47, 48, I think it was 48, the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now when they analysed the two, there was very few differences. So it showed a chain, like preservation. So it would seem like strange that,
When you say few, how many is few?
I would say,
Talking about
let's
book.
say a handful, let's say less than 10. I'm not sure the exact figure, but it's not a lot. So it's basically almost the same. Now,
No, I'm gonna do
for
this,
1,000 years, from 300 BC to 1000 AD, they've not been corrupting their text. But then we're supposed to believe these righteous Jews were corrupting the book beforehand. It doesn't make sense, and especially with the denial of Jesus the Messiah.
What's the
They
content
could
of the Dead
corrupt,
Sea Scrolls?
like the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yeah, what's the content of it?
It's got the Old Testament books,
It's all in the Old Testament.
apart from one.
Okay, so it's a whole Old Testament.
Yeah,
Because I thought the early manuscripts for the.
the Old Testament, not New Testament.
Oh, alright. Okay.
Right. So saying it's only
The
got
New
a
Testament
New
is
Testament is 150, yeah?
about 300. The Venaticus and Sinaiticus. But we've got fragments that predate it. But the first full Bible is like 300 AD or something like that.
what we're saying. It's got a handful of.
Yeah.
But it's
I mean, you can
generally
check,
it's
but-
generally the Old Testament.
Yeah, and it's pretty much preserved. So it
Okay.
seems strange that for 1,000 years more, they've not touched the book, but then for some reason before, they were corrupting it left, right and
Let's
centre.
keep
The
this-
evidence doesn't support the claim,
Let's
especially
keep
with
this
the
narrative.
fact that we've not... the fact that we've not... yeah, I'll probably have to wrap up soon, 'cause I'm-
Okay, but let's keep this narrative, yeah?
Yeah.
Is the message the same one between the Torah and the Bible? I'm talking about the main message. Let's don't go to the details.
Depends on what you define. If you're saying one God or following the
I'm
laws.
talking about the one God, yeah.
Well, the thing is, with one God, yes, and I'll tell you why. Because obviously Muslims like to appeal to the Shema, which is Hear, O
because
Israel, your Lord God is one, right? But there's a
You
scholar.
said that
There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but there's a scholar.
Look, you give us the dates now, yeah?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
said for 1,000 years the book was preserved.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's why I'm asking you, is the message the same?
Yes, I would say yes.
You would say yes, yeah?
I'm starting with the one
So
God
if I bring
one.
a Jewish, it wouldn't...
Yeah, the reason why I started with the one God, because because I was showing you those verses earlier on that allude to God talking about another God.
Okay.
Now, when we look historically, there's a book by Alan Siegel. What's it called? I forgot what it's called now. But basically, what his research found is from around 200 BC or even older to about the 2nd century AD. Binitarianism was an acceptable part of Judaism. Now, binitarianism means you believe in two Yahwehs. Trinitarians, we believe that God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. But the binitarian understanding came from those verses that I was giving you. Because they were like reading it, thinking, well, how can God be speaking of another God? And it wasn't a heresy. The reason why it became a heresy is because Christians came and were saying that second Yahweh was Christ. So then in the 2nd century, they made it a heresy. And this is by Alan Siegel.
That's kind of a misframing.
No,
because
why they were
Christians
calling
didn't come,
already...
Christians didn't come along and say, actually, your binitarian theology is great, yeah? We just put in the answer. No, you further inserted a third person.
No, but all I'm saying is because the Christians, because remember we believe in monotheism, but we say God has a plurality, and we believe Jesus was God. So the early Christians had to make an argument of why Jesus was God, and that's why I was giving you those verses. You don't necessarily have to agree with them, but these are what were used as a foundation. God said He was coming to earth. God speaking, being sent by another God. These are the verses that people were using. So you can say it's
is there a school of thought attributed to this binitarian Jewish doctrine?
Currently,
like, is there a name historically speaking?
No, I don't know if there's a name, but his name, like, there's a book. Like
Alan Siegel, you say?
Yeah, Alan Siegel. He was like the he's a Jewish scholar, and he was like one of the primary people to kind of write about this.
Was the believing in a dual God, was that in Jewish theology?
Yeah,
He said it comes from a Jewish theology.
Because there's even a because I always keep appealing to him. What's his name?
The other deity. In what light is it seen within that Jewish theology?
So basically, you were seen as.
Will it not be the same binitarian thing that Christians came up with as well?
It was sort of similar.
Like,
so they believed there was a God and a vice regent, a lesser God, but he was like more like a messenger, but it was still referred to as God.
Kind of like an Israelite thing. That's how they see it. It's kind of like the Hebrew Israelite thing.
Yeah, a bit like his understanding. And that was before Christ came. So Christians were saying that second vice regent was Christ. So that's how they were able to, because it wasn't a heresy and it didn't contravene monotheism. That's the argument that they were able to use to say Christ is the second person.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Even from you can bring a Jewish person and maybe they may not know, but I can bring out the verse and they'll struggle to interpret the verses. Because I've even got a video with a Jew and I brought him one verse and he was like, I have to go and check, because he got stuck on it. Because there's problematic verses for
I'm sure there is
for Jews
but
in terms of interpreting the Bible.
I see that as because of the nature of how the Bible was written. It's quite metaphoric and poetic, and it's a translation based on the ancient language as well. So.
Because this is the thing, people like to appeal to Jews to say because they speak the language they have the best understanding.
But I mean, we try to. What I try to do is try to appeal to Jewish, like learned Jews in terms of rabbis.
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't really like that. You want me to go back to scholars.
Well, you know what I do is I research the historical things, because when you learn, in terms of learning history, they say the best thing you can do is go to the earliest sources first to see what happened. Because that's why when I asked you, how could someone change the scripture? After time.
Why don't you do that?
No, but after time. I do that.
Yeah.
I've got videos on it. Yeah. But after time, because people change stories, it's like I can't come here next week and say you're a Chinese guy. I could probably come in 50 years when no one's around and claim you're Chinese and people will believe me. Because the further we get away from the source, the easier. That's why the historians will say go to the closest sources at the time and see what the people believe. So that's why I'm saying, with binitarianism, we have to ask, why did Jews believe this was acceptable? There has to be a premise for it.
To the first 2 centuries, you find converts that were fighting this idea of Trinity from the Christian people.
You would have to bring evidence for that.
What's that? They're fighting what?
They're fighting, I guess, this Trinity.
What we say, Arians.
Because then I think on the 3rd century become a law, is it? If you don't believe in Trinity, you are
Arians. Was that the name? Is that the
no?
The
You had the earliest Christians. Well, the ones that disputed none of them disputed the crucifixion.
No, we know that. But it's the nature of Christ we're talking about.
Yeah,
is
some
Trinity?
the idea
was he a
of one God.
not
One
Trinity,
God and
but
Trinity.
they some disagreed on the nature of Christ.
Right. So
some said he was a human
proceeding?
being.
Was he proceeding
was
from
like
the
half,
Father, or was he
huh?
generated? That
First
sort of nature of stuff.
No, that was more at the council.
later? Sorry.
The Trinitarian stuff comes later.
Okay.
But the only disputes at the time were you had like heretical groups who would say, well, obviously in our
Christ is
that
not God.
he was just he was just a man.
Right.
But then those same people would say that there was no virgin birth as well.
No, but you talk about the Nicene Creed.
No. I'm saying like the earliest disputes that we can find evidence of would be people that denied Jesus' divinity. They'll say he was a normal man, but also born of a woman as well. Like as in no virgin birth.
Right.
You understand?
But you see, there's a fallacy though to say that, for example, because they made a statement that it wasn't a virgin birth, automatically means they got the nature of Christ wrong as well.
Well,
would be a mistake.
Because I really say that because some Muslims will say those were the original, but then they go against like what the Muslim Christians should have believed that.
But I mean, maybe
they should have believed in the virgin birth as well.
From a linguistic angle though, the words, and even in Arabic, the word, what is it, bikr, I don't know if it's the same in Judaism, or bikr or abkar, which refers to virgins, also refers to young unmarried girls as well. So I know a lot of people have come from that angle, from the linguistic angle of saying it doesn't mean that she was unmarried, even though for me that doesn't, it doesn't fit in with.
What do you mean unmarried?
As in a young girl that has not reached the age of being a maiden.
Okay.
Right. So that doesn't necessarily that she's a virgin. Just means that she's not married.
Oh, that Mary.
That's the interpretation.
That's what some of the Jews would say. But this is the thing. Now, Muslims appeal to Jews to say because they speak Hebrew, they have the best interpretation.
Well, not just Jews, learned Jews, people that are supposed
rabbis,
to be, rabbis.
But this is the problem. You have two people who look at the same text. One would say it's Christ, the other who use the scripture. Like obviously the Muslims as well, but let's just say the Christians and the Jews. Now they look at the same scriptures and give different interpretations. Now this is where it's a catch-22 because Christians will say there's prophecies of Christ that say who he's going to be and they confirm it's Jesus. But the Jews say it's not about Jesus. So therefore, if you want to take the Jewish interpretation, you have to accept their interpretation that Jesus is not the Messiah. But that goes against your Quran. Because the only people who identified Christ as being this person were the Christians. But the problem is if you take our interpretation, we say he's God. So it's like you've got two.
Okay, so you say it's about Trinity. I don't say it.
You've got two interpretations to go by.
But there's a third one. But there's a third one.
I was talking about Christians.
But there's a third one. There are Jews who claim that these same scriptures that you point to as Christ are scriptures and prophecies of the Messiah. Not necessarily that it couldn't have been Jesus, but they say that this is about the Messiah. Right. So if I say I agree with you,
but then you can
and the Messiah is Christ.
Yeah, but then you can wait with them because they'll say the Messiah.
He has. Exactly. Obviously, all right. That's their interpretation.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So whose interpretation do you follow?
No, because so obviously as a Muslim, the Quran is.
No, of course, I know. But that's why I said it's a catch-22. Because I'm saying you appeal to that maiden thing. We'll say no, it's a virgin.
No, I would say it's a virgin. I believe it's a virgin.
But that's what I'm saying. A Jew will say it's a maiden to get out of it. But then, as a neutral person, then if you don't believe it's a virgin, then you can wait for the Messiah with them. But if you believe Jesus was the Messiah,
but we are waiting for him.
No, but they're saying he hasn't even come at all.
Yeah, but they deny Jesus, so that's the problem.
Exactly. That's my very point. So then, if they have the correct interpretation, then you need to be waiting with them for the Messiah. But you know the Messiah has come, so therefore you can't have two contradictory truths.
But we're still doing that though. That's the thing. We're in between. We're in between. Cause they're saying the Messiah ain't come. And you are saying he already did come. I'm saying he's come and he's coming again.
No, of course.
But I'm in between the two parties.
Of course. But because all I'm just saying is that with that one, because
I know what you're saying is you have to take it as a whole.
Because they denied the virgin birth as a criteria. So because they deny the virgin birth as a criteria,
you're saying you have to take with that if you're going to take their authority.
Exactly. Right. So that's why they're still waiting, because we'll say no. The prophecies actually tell you that it was Christ, and that's how they match the two. But because the Jews don't accept what was written about the Messiah, if you
Jews
just
don't accept nothing
it's like if you
outside
have
them
if you have a
circle,
roadmap
that's
and
the
it's giving you
thing.
directions to somewhere, if you don't follow it, you're going to get lost. But the Christians are like, no, the Bible is the roadmap to tell you Jesus is the Messiah. So but the problem is, if you accept our interpretation, we say it tells you it's God. So that's why I say it's a catch-22.
Not all Christians. Let's be more clear.
Well,
That's the thing. That's the
depends where
that's
what
the thing that amazes
destination
me.
you want to go to,
Because you keep saying the message is that, but if I go to Christianity, I found some people. I met another guy the other week. He believed that literally God had a son. Okay, I forgot the name of his faction. But anyway, God, Jesus, and three gods. Okay, three separate gods. And then you've got the Trinitarians that believe, as you said, one entity. And then you've got others that don't believe just in one God and Jesus as a prophet.
yeah, I mean, obviously,
You got some people saying that he's Michael.
So do you understand? So that's my thing.
yeah,
And if you go to the
yeah.
earliest, you said something really important before, and you're not doing it. You said if you want to know about history,
Yeah, you go to
you go to the earliest one.
Yeah,
That's why I told you why we found. I have to give you the reference for that. Yeah, I'm gonna look at it next week.
Which one?
About about these convents that they were fighting the Trinitarians at the beginning.
Okay.
You found them on Christianity at the beginning, in the first 2 centuries.
killed as heretics.
So that's the thing. And then it became as a law, I think around the 3rd century. If you don't believe on the Trinity, you're basically not a Christian.
Yeah, it was ruled as orthodoxy in the Nicene Creed.
So you see, you said something that I am actually using to understand Christianity.
Well,
And then,
but it was just more because you said that the Trinitarians were fighting again. It wasn't like that. That's why I'm waiting for that reference. But
Yeah, I will look at, but
yeah, but
I know
apart
it-
from,
I know
apart
it
from
is.
that part,
Okay.
then yes, in the 3rd century, because what Christians will say is that Christians have always understood this. But the reason why we had the Nicene Creed is because heresy started to creep in. So Christianity wasn't a belief that affirmed their faith. It was like, we know this, but then when people start coming saying the wrong thing, then so actually we need to write down a doctrine of what we actually believe in. So it wasn't like
The only thing
we
is
believe in this.
that's from a angle of perspectives, because you may say, and I agree that Islamically speaking the same thing as
Yeah,
well.
because
There's been canons of what the Islamic creeds are, but the
Yeah,
thing is,
exactly.
it's all about perspective and actually following the evidences. Do these people actually have evidences that support what they're saying, or not? And how would you determine that school of thought, that school of Christian jurisprudence is incorrect in totality or partially or at all?
Well,
You need some sort of an objective.
but that's the thing. That's why I say, like, even the divinity of Christ, like, and when I refer to binitarianism within Judaism, we have to ask where did they get these concepts from?
Yeah. Okay.
Because
I'm
actually,
not
let me
too
just
sure
show,
about
let me just show
these-
you one
these,
thing before I shoot off. I'm going to show you one thing. This is from
my only problem with Christianity is shirka.
yeah.
That's my only thing. That's my only thing, because we know it's
don't trigger the people there. They're gonna.
that's
Look, this is now.
but
This is
it's a major sin. That's the
But the
point.
thing is, even is right. Even the Yahud as well, they fell
now
into
look.
it.
This is the Jewish
fell into
encyclopedia.
deifying.
This is the Jewish encyclopedia, right? And this is there's something called the Zohar, right? Which
Zohar.
is it's kind of like a
Another God.
no, it's part of Judaism.
Okay.
But it's a bit like the Talmud.
Talmudic, yeah.
But so it's an interpretation. It's like
Rabbinical.
it's like the spiritual essence of the Old Testament. Now let me just show you something very, very quickly. Alright, so now this is the same article. They're talking about influence on Christian mysticism. So it says the enthusiasm felt for the Zohar was shared by many Christian scholars, blah blah blah.
Pico de Mirandola.
You right?
Yeah.
Actually, there as well.
Huh? Police. 999. You call 999? Yeah, they will pick you up.
Okay, yeah, so I'll read all of it anyway. So they say. So it says the Ancient of Days has 3 heads. He reveals himself in 3 archetypes.
The Ancient of Days.
Yeah, that's all 3 forming but one. So this is from within Judaism, not Christianity. And then, so I'll skip that bit. You can go and search it online if you want. Then it says, this and other doctrines of Christian tendency that are found in the Zohar are now known to be much older than Christianity. This is on a Jewish website. So how did Christians invent this? And that's why I say historically, they're claiming this concept of a plurality or 3 in God predates Christianity. So how then did Paul... And yeah, you can read this for yourself. Jewish Encyclopedia.
Christian mysticism.
Yeah, so that's where it goes. Because they say the Ancient of Days has 3 heads. He reveals himself in 3 archetypes, all 3 forming but one. And remember, you said go to the Jewish rabbis. This is written by... Yeah, exactly. So then that's what I'm saying.
That's still not a trinity though. That's
where this concept of 3...
Because the trinity thing is a 3 in 1, being co-equal and eternal.
But why was there a 3ness of God? Where did this concept come from? Because look, they say this and the other doctrines of Christian tendency that are found in the Zohar are now known to be much older than Christianity. But the Christian scholars who were deluded by the similarity of these teachings to certain Christian dogmas deemed it their duty to propagate the Zohar.
But
so what they're trying to say,
these guys are saying that the Zohar is like heretical kind of thing.
No, this is accepted in mainstream Judaism.
Well,
the
it doesn't sound like
they're attacking Christians. They're saying that Christians took these. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the deluded Christians, they teethed it and made it to their own thing. So that's what I'm saying. So if this argument of the Trinity was it made up in the 3rd century, why are even on Jewish websites?
But listen to what you're saying. It's essentially what you're saying is a refutation of what.
But let's be specific
of
on
the
that.
Trinity, because they're saying you took a concept from us,
yes,
you distorted it and made it your own thing,
yes,
right. So that means their concept and your concept's not the same.
But that's the thing. I want to understand the specific.
I agree with that. But I'm saying if God is one, how did they then get this concept of God being a 3ness?
Obviously,
that Christians
because the concept of duality of God predates Christianity. It even predates Judaism. It was
Hinduism.
No.
But remember, this is
the Persians had their own philosophy of
talking about that. But the Greeks who believe in
what we're saying,
I mean,
the Greeks were pagans. They believed in one
you mean as monotheism?
The Persians believed in one God, but a second God that was an invention of that one.
But you're saying that the monotheists are rooted in the Zohar. I get that.
So then where did they get this concept of a plurality in God? Because what I'm saying is, we're not saying we took it from Persian
the Bible
dualism, but this is part of Judaism who believes in monotheism.
I know.
The Bible clearly does refer to, like in many passages, to more than one God. But I would draw you back to, like, I don't know. For me, it's weird. It is weird, and the only thing
that's why I say look at the historical evidence.
Let's don't forget that the Christian church existed 2 centuries before Jesus.
Yeah, but this.
And then, I wanna look on that.
The Zohar is the Old based on the Old Testament.
But how many centuries you said before? Like 2 or 3, yeah? You said.
For me, the way I wrap my brain around to it is going back to the scripture where they accuse Christ of saying blaspheming. And it says, but doesn't the scripture say ye men are gods? Clearly we have reference in the Old Testament to human beings as being gods, right? And this is Christ foretelling that. So that to me, would say to me that if I come across the term Lord, Adonai, God, Yahweh, those sort of terms there, I need to actually qualify, is this uniquely talking about the one creator, or is it talking about people that he sent? Because he's saying I've sent you as Elohim to the nation.
But just to close, my thing that I'll throw out to you would be to investigate where did this concept come from that was then accepted as part of, because there has to be a criteria for them to build a doctrine on this. So they didn't just pick out. You might say, well, it's from Persian Judaism, but no, it could be valid, but then you would have to research it, and that's what I'm saying. Because
no, we definitely need to. I will need to go
because they will pull this from the.
I agree with you. But the point I was making, the point I was making is that from an Islamic standpoint, from my limited knowledge of certain parts of history, is why I refer to the Persian, because I've looked into that one. Is that
the duality of God, or God existed in different parts, crept into monotheistic traditions prior to Judaism, because Zoroastrian is originally a monotheistic belief. And one of the ways that crept in was their philosophers tried to get around the angle of how does evil exist, and so they came with the philosophical argument that one day God created all good things and created the universe, and it was all good, and then God thought, is there anything that can disrupt my good creation? And that manifested into an evil God. And so they believed in a good God that you had to worship, and an evil God that can challenge God's creation. Which is but these similar ways is how duality crept into monotheistic tradition. So it could have crept into Judaism.
It's quite old, isn't it? Even the concept of yin and yang.
Even scholars will agree that Persian duality was not what influenced it, because
I'm not saying it's
good and the bad.
I'm not saying but I'm saying duality and misunderstanding God existing as a unique being, that crept into Persian.
Comes from Judaism. He's actually saying,
sorry, bro. Can we distance Persian theology from Christian theology, though? I don't think we can. Why? I believe that.
Why?
Look, even like, for example, the term El, it's like, it goes into like Syrian or Assyrian theology, and that is the title of the. So even this from the linguistic side of it, there's clearly like a linguistic influence in it. There's been, the Persians have ruled that region for quite a bit, and they've had influences in terms of invasions and that sort of mixing in with the people. So can we completely, this is just speculation on my part, but can we completely divorce Persian systems from the formation of Christian Judaic
you would have to provide evidence to highlight, because it's very easy to make a claim about something, but you'd have to provide evidence. And the thing is, with early Jews as well, what people don't realize, for them to be influenced by something outside like dualism would be very, very almost impossible, because Jews even had exemptions from honouring Caesar, because they were more willing to die than to, because everyone had to acknowledge Caesar as God, the emperor. You understand? And Jews in the first century, they were exempt from it, because these guys were rigid monotheists. So if these things are creeping in, it doesn't make sense.
But so the Arabs prior to paganism being brought in, because the Arabs prior to I can't remember who it is, but he's mentioned in Bukhari. I think it's Amr ibn al-Hayat. Don't hold me to his name.
Before the idols.
Yeah, who brought the idols in, and then crept in a paganistic belief whilst maintaining, because they believed in Allah. They believed in Allah, but then he brought in these and then up until when it evolved up until the time of the Prophet, where they believed in sub-deities, that they believe God is the one who creates, but they have sub-deities who could rival God's creation and can challenge God, and this God controlled the weather, this God controlled this. But it originally started as a monotheistic religion, which was from the tradition of Ismail, the son of Abraham. So it was a monotheistic religion, but it was crept in. So you could argue, where were the Arabs who had a monotheistic tradition? Why didn't they challenge?
Well, that's what I'm saying. But with you, you brought what evidence? That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
bring the evidence to back up the claim.
But
on that note, it was a good discussion, and it wasn't like, I respect these guys, because it wasn't like sometimes you talk to Muslims, shouting. It wasn't like, okay, explain the Trinity. Jesus,
now you got to get Kane on this.
Hey, but yeah, it's a beautiful conversation, and I enjoyed it. But it's just that I've got to go. But yeah, if you guys are here next week, definitely we'll do it again.
What's your name, bro? What's your name?
People call me PAPERBOy.
You don't want to tell us? Don't worry, we're not going to kidnap you, bro.
PAPERBOy. Off camera.
Bob.
Huh? Bob. PAPERBOy.
Paul.
Alright, I'll see you guys next week anyway. Yeah, just to do a quick recap. It was a really fruitful conversation. And at least they were listening, and hopefully they take things on board. But the main thing I was trying to get across was history is about probability, and there's lots of writings about things that have happened in the past. And when we look at the historical evidence about Judaism, even Jesus, Christianity, a lot of outside evidence supports the Christian worldview. And this is what I encourage all people to do, is just investigate. Because even when I appeal to the Jewish Encyclopedia, for people who claim that the Trinity was invented at the Council of Nicaea, we even see the Jewish people are trying to claim this concept of a plurality in God. So then we have to ask ourselves, what was the premise of this foundational understanding that there was a threeness in God? So when we look at the evidence, it goes actually back into the Old Testament. And even when Judaism, like rabbinical Jews say something different now, we look at the historical evidence and it says something totally different as to what they say now. So my claim would be to investigate the historical sources and make a holistic view. And what you'll come to the conclusion is Christians did not invent this concept. They were just relating of what traditions had passed on and what they understood from the Old Testament. That's why we can see things like binitarianism being an acceptable part of early Judaism. And this is something we see confirmed in writing from Jewish scholars, not even Christian scholars. So again, all the signs lead to the Christian worldview of events, and I invite everyone to research this and they'll come to the same conclusions. And this is why when we try and apply this same standard to Islam, for example, we find many inconsistencies of history. So we can either use logic and use a historical approach, or we can just kind of take a blind faith approach and accept, you know, for example, Islam for what it is and based on Muhammad's worldview and his words. But again, we had a very fruitful conversation today, and hopefully we'll have more of those maybe next week. So peace out.